Hello and welcome to Round 7 coverage of Grand Prix Montreal. I'm Brian David Marshall, joined in the booth by Jake Van Lunen. And we are watching Maxime Auger on your left with Temur Marvel playing against Chris Patello with his 4-color Marvel deck. Maxime undefeated at 6-0. Chris Patello got that one draw. We saw him on camera a lot earlier in the day. And some really interesting cards in Chris Patello's list that we saw, including being able to cycle for a desert.
That's pretty exciting.
With a Shaheen monitor.
I mean, he's playing 4 Glint Sleeve Siphoner. He has Demon of Dark Schemes. He has World Breakers. Like, this may be a Marvel deck, but he does a lot of strange things that we aren't used to seeing out of the other Marvel decks.
Yeah, the Shaheen monitor lets him cycle for a desert, which lets him start doing some pretty cool stuff with World Breaker.
And once you get those World Breakers going, oof.
So things going pretty well here for Chris. Opens up with a Servant of the Conduit on turn 2. Maxime attuned for Ether for his second land. And there's the Whirler Virtuoso. Kind of one of those cards that makes this deck really hard to attack. They have this option of, just going wide and, attacking in the air with Thopters.
And, we're used to beating these, combo-y control decks by playing Planeswalkers because, it's hard for them to play cards that interact well against those while they're also, trying to make their combo happen. But Whirler Virtuoso is really good against Planeswalkers by creating these flying bodies that pressure it from multiple angles. It's
also really good at getting you to 6 energy, so you can cast a turn 4 Aetherworks Marvel.
All right, here we go.
And
spin that wheel. Let's do it. All right.
And there is, he hit multiple Ulamog. He had an embarrassment of Ulamogs in the top 6. He hits immediately. And what is he going to take out here? He's just going to take out 2 lands. Yep, he's going to leave him with just an island, the Servant of the Conduit, and the Rogue Refiner. And get in with the Whirler Virtuoso. He's like, yep. And that's going to trade with the Rogue Refiner, gets an energy back. And what's Chris Patello going to do with just 2 mana on the board?
I imagine he's going to lose the game, Brian.
Oh, we have a reader. It's the desert that we talked about earlier.
What is this? It's a Grasping Dunes.
So he can, go, he can put a -1/-1 counter on that Ulamog, maybe get an extra turn out of it.
Yeah, that's true.
But instead, we're going to get a Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot. And you know what? That means we have a shot at Chris maybe sticking his own Marvel next turn and finding a way out from under here.
The thing is, Maxime's deck does have 3 Censor and a single copy of Negate in the main.
And in fact, it looks like he has that copy of Negate in hand. And I think that Harness Lightning is going to seal this here for Chris Patello to lose this game.
Yeah, now he wouldn't even need to use the Negate. It's
attacks with the Ulamog. And that's going to be enough. Chris Patello's like, all right, yep, you got me. Turn 4 Ulamog. Yep, pretty good. That's what I want to do too.
And the thing about Chris Patello's deck is he's got enough interesting stuff going on where when he's in that situation where he's like, a 0.000001% chance to win and it relies on your opponent forgetting to attack for multiple turns, he doesn't want his opponent to see all the tricks he's got up his sleeves.
All right, so we'll be back with Game 2 right after this. All right, and we are back. Players are getting ready here for game 2. Sorry about the sniffles, folks. I'm fading fast here from the Pro Tour plague, and I'm trying to aggressively use the mute button. All right, so here we take a look in at our other table.
Yeah, Shaheen Soorani came here with an interesting blue-black control deck, and he's been beating up on Marvel thus far in the tournament. Doesn't look like that's what's happening here in Game 1 and Round 7, but for the most part, he's had a lot of success against what has seemingly become the format boogeyman. And his deck is not only really strong against Marvel, but it's also absurdly good against zombies. He has access to 4 copies of Ahini's Expertise after board, and how is zombies supposed to overcome that? Especially if he's dropping a card like Liliana into play for free afterward.
So Ling Zhuo, he's a Toronto Magic player. Says he feels pretty lucky to be doing this well thus far. Shaheen Soorani, of course, a couple Grand Prix St. Paulo top 4 with Pascal, Maynard, and BBD most recently. And, of course, top 4 right now in the team series at the Pro Tour with Team Lingering Souls.
So interesting play there from Shaheen. To prevent himself from dying to a Chandra +1, he's forced to use Disallow to counter the +1 on Chandra.
But if you're doing that, that needs to be a pretty good card on top of your deck after that, and it wasn't. And they are going to go to game 2 here while we head back over to our main match, which is just getting underway.
It's like Maxime finding himself a mountain, so has all 3 of his colors here. But Chris getting to stick this glint sleeve siphoner right from the get-go. And when you do that on the play, that's a dangerous thing to happen. And Maxime really needs to have some sort of removal spell for that, or he's going to find himself buried under a wave of card advantage.
Yeah, and the glint sleeve siphoner is not something we see in really many of the Marvel decks, but Harness Lightning takes it out pretty quickly here for Maxime Auger. So to give you a little bit background on Maxime, he's from Quebec City, and he's really good friends with Pascal Maynard. In fact, best friends, and he uses, when he's not on camera, uses Pascal's player card as his energy token.
Oh, very nice.
And you know what? But, although he and Pascal are great friends, he's only been playing Magic for a year. He started playing because of Pascal.
That's even better. I mean, that's why you start playing Magic, right? To spend time with your good friends.
Yeah. Chris Patello, of course, top 4 Grand Prix Vancouver with Cat Pact.
Now, one thing I really like about the Glint Sleeve Siphoner that I think I've overlooked up until this point is we're frequently talking about how good Tireless Tracker is, as we see here.
Yeah.
Glint Sleeve Siphoner kind of fills that role. It applies this unique kind of pressure that forces your opponent to deal with it and opens you up to do your more powerful plan A.
And comes out a little earlier and maybe even digs you into your lands or your crucial cards ahead of where maybe a Tireless Tracker does.
Of course, requires playing black in the deck, which is a whole other can of worms, but still.
Here we see Chris Patello doing his thing. He's cycling a Shefet Monitor, which means he gets to go get a basic land or a desert and put it directly into play. Then he gets a draw card. Yeah, it's not tapped. If you've watched any of the new Perspectives decks in action in the standard format, the fact that those lands don't come into play tapped is a huge deal.
Yeah, very, very important. So when you make that card cycle for 0, it actually generates mana in the process.
So goes and gets an island.
Shefet Monitor, a Emonket sealed deck all-star.
Tune with Ether brings Chris Patello up to 6 energy. Goes and gets a swamp and plays it. Does he have an Aetherworks Marvel in hand so he can repay Maxime Auger for game 1 here?
Yeah, this is the chance to do it.
Get a look at Tireless Tracker. It is not looking like he does.
Leaving him plenty of blue mana, though, here.
Plays another Servant of the Conduit. ends up on 7 energy in the end and passes the turn.
So you see how he aggressively found those islands? That tells me that he's likely got a good amount of interaction in his hand here. And when you look at his sideboard, he does have 3 copies of Negate. He has a single copy of Dispel. It's not unreasonable to imagine that he's holding some of that right now. Another card that's in Chris Patello's sideboard that I can't even.
Yeah.
He's playing Void Winnower.
Oh, wow. That's a card we were talking about last night.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a Void Winnower in play, your opponent cannot cast Aetherworks Marvel. They cannot cast Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger. They can't even.
They just have to content themselves with winning with a Whirl of Virtuoso or a Tireless Tracker. Or
it doesn't quite turn off the whole deck, but...
Yeah. You see Tireless Tracker doing its thing for Maxime Auger. 2 counters on it. It untaps. It's kind of amazing how once you get a couple of activations on your Tireless Tracker, you never seem to run out of lands. It's weird.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
You see there is a Marvel in hand. There's an Ulamog in hand for Maxime. A Chandra as well. Flamecaller. And only 2 cards, it looks like, in hand left for Chris Patello here. Of course, with Chris, those 2 cards could be anything.
That's absolutely true. They could be actual any card in Standard right now.
And Maxime just says, you know what, I've got a fistful of cards. I've got a Tireless Tracker that I'm working here. I'm going to pass the turn.
I'm really impressed with Maxime, by the way. He's been playing Magic for a year.
Yeah.
That's some discipline right there. That's impressive.
He definitely wants 2 marshmallows later on. He doesn't want 1 marshmallow right now. Here is Aetherworks Marvel from Chris Patello. He's like, what do you got? You got a lot of cards. Maxime's going to crack a clue, go digging.
I like that he already has the answer and he cracks the clue.
There's Ceremonious Rejection.
Oh, maybe Chris didn't have counter magic because he didn't attempt to protect.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow.
So that's land number 7 for Maxime. Remember, he is holding an Ulamog. But I think we're going to see Chandra here. Yep. See him. Yeah, Chandra resolves. Now, what are you going to do with Chandra here? Are you going to...
I think you -2, right?
Yep. He does. Takes down the 2 servants and gets in with a 6 power Tireless Tracker.
He's seeming to be in a good spot, but Chris Patello could have anything in hand. And if Chris Patello did not have counter magic, it doesn't seem unlikely to me that he's got another copy of Aetherworks Marvel in hand. He might just have some big spells stuck in his hand too, but... I mean, there aren't many other cards he could have based on the way he's played this game, right? When you start narrowing it down.
So you start to think it's either another Marvel or an Ulamog?
Or like an Ulamog, yeah.
Or 2 Ulamogs. They're like buses.
Yeah, they are.
So 2 with Ether. And a full hand for Maxime as he sends the turn back over to Chris Patello. Chris draws, and he draws an Aetherworks Marvel. I don't know if he had one in his hand already, but he definitely just drew that one right now, right off the top.
It looks like he did have an Ulamog in his hand, so...
Is there an Ulamog on top of his deck? Does not look like there is.
No, there is, however, a Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, which will allow him to spin the wheel again on the following turn. Unless, of course, Maxime is able to get that Aetherworks Marvel off the table in the meantime.
So there's the puzzle knot. He's going to get 3 energy from that. He gets another 4 when he sacrifices it, provided the Marvel's still in play.
Yep.
Portly also just manages his life total here.
Which is extremely relevant because Chandra has a +1 that essentially deals 6 damage to him. And that's no joke. Ends games very fast.
So what are we going to see? There's a Manglehorn.
Wow, we've seen Manglehorn be so high impact every time it's been in somebody's hands so far this weekend.
So Chris Patello is going to sacrifice his puzzle knot in response, so he gets that extra energy.
Yeah, juicing out every little bit of value from those.
Not sure. What the players are discussing here. Okay. He does get the Marvel.
When you're in these kind of controlling mirror type situations, being the first person to go for it usually spells defeat.
And here's Aetherworks Marvel from Maxime Auger. He's got the 6 energy, cashes it in. It doesn't even go. That's perfect. That's great form there. He's like, oh, there it is. Flips it into play. He's going to take out 2 islands.
That's how it should be.
Ticks up the Chandra. Wow, look at this. And comes in for 12 here.
Yeah. Chris Patello, 1 turn to survive.
But even if he finds a Marvel, that Marvel's going to come into play tapped. That's not going to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the hand. Maxime Auger goes to 7-0. Again, learned to play Magic because his best friend, Pascal Maynard.
Pretty good Magic player.
A year later, he's 7-0. In great shape with 2 rounds to go here on day 1.
Brilliantly.
Yeah, playing super tight Magic. Great job by Maxime Auger.
Does that foil Ulamog kill extra creatures, remove extra cards?
Well, you get to kill 2 foils.
Oh, nice.
That's how it works.
Oh, we get to see the Void Winnowers. He's not shy.
Yeah, the player's just
crowd favorite.
D-sideboarding face up. Couple of dispossesses. Yeah, that Void Winnower. That would be pretty nasty. But was not.
I like it a lot. I think that may have a home in some of these other versions. You don't have to play all of these wacky cards, but some of them may be really good. I think there's a lot of innovation to be had in the standard format that we're still waiting on. Because Marvel's beatable. We see all these Marvel decks and they're doing so well, but you can build a deck like that blue-white deck we've been watching.
Well, Shaheen Soorani's trying to prove it's beatable. He's got blue-black control. He's against Temur. Here you see him reading his Westvale Abbey. Puts a creature into play with it. His opponent, Ling Colin, is on 4 energy with a Torrential Gear Hulk, a Marvel. Oh, and a Liliana emblem, which is churning out
powerful.
Zombies here.
Yeah.
Things are looking good for Shaheen Surrani.
And this Westvale Abbey is perhaps about to become Ormondal, the Profane Prince.
I think you would probably want to attack with the... Well, you can't attack with the... You want to make the Ormondal when he's tapped out, right? You don't want to let Ormondal get exiled by an Ulamog.
That's true. Yeah. There's definitely some play to it here. Lynn does have an Aetherworks Marvel in play, so...
You got to be scared of Harnessed Lightning.
It's worth noting, though, that, even if Ling is able to find an Ulamog, he's not necessarily going to win this game.
Right.
Sometimes Ulamog is not good enough.
Well, let's hope they sleeved up enough zombie tokens. Here we go.
Hordes of the undead. Ling thinking to himself, kingdom for a declaration in stone.
Oh my gosh. That's why you play 4-color Marvel. So it looked like Shaheen attempted to disallow, but it was countered with a negate. But now Ling is counting up those zombie tokens. It's going to need to be one heck of a spin here. Oh, how about a Chandra?
Chandra's not the worst.
Certainly gets him a turn. Chandra Flamecaller.
Yeah, so Shaheen going to be forced to activate this West Val Abbey.
Yep. Here he goes. So he's going to do 2 damage to all those. He's going to sacrifice some of them.
Yep.
Make an Ormondal the Profane Prince. The others are going to die. But now Shaheen gets to untap with the Profane Prince. He's also going to get a bunch of zombies back at the end of this turn. Cycles a land. Transgress the Mind. Sees Ulamog. And seizes Ulamog. And now he's trying to decide if he wants to attack Chandra or attack Ling.
Yeah, I mean it's one more turn if you attack Chandra, one more turn of attacks to win the game. And at the same time Ling gets significantly less opportunities to draw cards that could possibly deal with it. So I think you do kill the Chandra first. But I mean there are a lot of extenuating factors. Like I'm not sure how he might have sideboarded, etc.
Starts rebuilding his horde. He attacked Ling.
Yeah.
Ling's down to just the top card of his deck. His hand's been taken apart. Plays Rogue Refiner. Yep.
Wow. And that's
All right.
going to be it.
Shaheen Soorani evens this up 1 game apiece here in round 7. Both these players at 5-1. Would love to keep themselves ahead of the X and 2 field.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the bracket they're in, I'm sure that neither of them are unhappy with their current record. Shaheen, of course, wants to stay in the Marvel record pool.
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said about Shaheen even entering the draw bracket at some point. I think that might help him in some ways. His deck is really well suited for that. Actually, you know what? Never mind. I think that there are blue-red decks that will probably beat the living stuff out of him. I mean, they're
Here you see the
a lot
players
leaner.
readjusting their sideboard plans, making some minor adjustments as they go through. So what does Shaheen's sideboard plan look like against Marvel?
Yeah, we had talked about Shaheen's sideboard plan when we had seen him play against zombies, and it seemed like the matchup was nearly unwinnable for zombies in post-boarded games. But when we're taking a look at the way he's playing against Marvel, he gets 2 copies of Ceremonious Rejection. He gets a negate, and he gets 3 copies of Transgress the Mind. There's some other cards in here also that he may be bringing in. I'm not exactly sure. For example, Baral, Chief of Compliance, may be a consideration when you're playing against the Temur Marvel deck.
So what does Baral do for you in this situation?
Well, one of the bigger things that Baral does, the cost reduction element of Baral is really important in this matchup, because one of the ways that Temur Marvel is going to beat you is by getting you to tap your lands to counter extraneous threats that are just going to slowly eke away the game. Because Temur Marvel plays a lot of cards that you don't need to counter, but you need to deal with eventually. And if you don't counter them, they often require more than one card to effectively deal with. So a card like Rogue Refiner, for example, not an amazing threat against you as a blue-black control player. It's going to attack you for 3 turn. That's basically all it's going to do. But the fact that it replaces itself with another card when it resolves means that when you use a card to kill that 3/2, you're a card behind. So Shaheen is, in some ways, encouraged to counter a spell like Rogue Refiner, which is a little bit counterintuitive because you want to be countering the quote-unquote important cards. So Shaheen really needs to have his mana be efficient. He needs to be able to cast multiple counter spells in a single turn. And a card like Baral, Chief of Compliance, does a really good job of allowing him to do that.
Now what about Ling? What's going on with him after sideboard? How do you think that deck is going to adjust? Didn't really have to deal with much in the way of control at the Pro Tour. What do we think's happening here?
So post-board, I mean, he's got a pair of negates, he's got a pair of dispels. Dispel's got to be at its absolute best here, right?
So a lot of the cards that you have for the mirror are also just incidentally really good against control.
Yeah, he also has 4 Tireless Tracker. And, I mean, just that enough seems to be a good amount. The problem is, like, in Game 1, Ling has cards like Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, which are miserable in a matchup like this because Shaheen can just be like, okay, sure. And then he'll just counter your Whirler Virtuosos and your Aetherworks Marvel, and the Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot becomes almost like a mulligan. So, in doing so, like, that makes Game 1 heavily favored in the control deck's side. But then when you get to Games 2 and 3, those dead cards come out of the Temur deck. And, luckily for Shaheen, he was able to win the Game 2 anyway, despite his opponent not having those dead cards in deck. But now he's going to be on the draw, and that's going to make things a lot harder. And like, Ling's deck gets a lot leaner post-board. And the fact that he has 4 copies of Glimmer of Genius means that he's much better against these control decks than some of the other versions of Marvel that are in the room. And he can just pass the turn, and he can force Shaheen to tap mana to counter a Glimmer of Genius if he wants to sometimes. And
it looked like 2 Ulamogs there in the opening hand for Ling. And,
I saw 2 Ulamogs in 1 land, I think.
Okay, that's not a formula for success.
It's a 5-card 1-lander, essentially.
Get any glimpse of what was going on in Shaheen's hand there?
I did not, unfortunately.
Okay. All right. Ling's looking for 6 manageable cards. How does the Temur Marvel deck mulligan in general? Is it a pretty decent deck to mulligan with?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty resilient deck in terms of mulliganing. One of the major reasons why it's so resilient is that, you can have a 4-card hand and still spin the wheel on turn 4 sometimes. It's a deck that can do that. And it's also a deck where there's a lot of redundancy, and you get to cantrip with Rogue Refiner. You oftentimes have like a 6-card hand and never run out of action because of the way you're able to chain Rogue Refiners together and the like. So
you see an Ulamog on top of the hand there for Ling, but he kept the hand anyway and kept a card on top. And by the way, that looks like a Baral there for Shaheen, so I think he did bring that in here. No turn 2 play from Ling.
He is, however, happy that he was able to hit that 2nd land drop. Yeah, I think he has a 3rd one in hand now.
Looks like he has an Ether Hub and a pair of Aetherworks Marvels. But no sort of persistent source of energy or...
You get 2 energy when you play Aetherworks Marvel with 1 in play because it dies and gets 2 triggers, but that's not quite enough.
All right, there's Baral.
Ooh, the Chief of Compliance. Now,
He's going to be facing off against the Tireless Tracker.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Tireless Tracker in that fight. Oh.
Uh-oh. What happened there? Oh, Shaheen played the wrong land. He shows him that he has the swamp. He wanted to grasp that, but...
That's rough. That's real, real rough.
Yep. Played an island instead of the 2nd swamp. So he's going to have to transgress the mind here. Sees a Tune with Ether, which he can't take, 2 Aetherworks Marvels, and an Ulamog, which he's happy to leave stranded in his hand for now.
Yeah, and Shaheen's got to be kicking himself here because that not being able to kill that tireless tracker that turn, that represents a big advantage for Ling here. Ling has an anemic hand. He's unable to do much. He's all clogged. He's stumbly mode.
But now the tireless tracker is going to live. He gets to Ether works, attune with Ether, get a land.
Yeah, get a clue.
Hit a clue. Keep his deck moving forward here.
And that gives him something to do with his mana, draws him an extra card, makes his tireless tracker bigger. Does basically everything that Shaheen does not want it to happen.
And immediately cracks the clue and attacks with the tireless tracker. It looks like he found a harnessed lightning. All right. A cycle hieroglyphic illumination at the end of the turn for Shaheen. Shows him the swamp. And immediately Grasp in Darknesses that tireless tracker that he wanted to do that to last turn.
It looks like Shaheen has a negate in hand, but no hard counter magic.
So Rogue Refiner is going to come down. Ling's going to go up to 5 energy. And can he find a window to land that Aetherwork Marvel? I mean, Shaheen knows it's in his hand, so he's not going to leave his gate down here if at all possible. Has another Transgress the Mind. And is there anything that's jumped in the queue ahead of Aetherworks Marvel? No.
Yeah, there's the Chandra, but getting to cast a negate for 1 mana to counter that 6 mana Chandra is going to be a pretty sweet deal for Shaheen when it happens. So.
And he's going to Grasp in Darkness the Rogue Refiner, and he's going to get in with the Compliance Officer.
Interesting interaction here between Pull from Eternity and Baral, Chief of Compliance. Shaheen's going to get to go 1 card deeper.
It's pretty sweet. And Ling is getting close to being able to cast that Chandra. Lumbering Falls comes into play tapped as his 6th land. Shaheen's going to pay 3 for Hieroglyphic Illumination here.
And we're actually seeing Baral be pretty good here. He's able to double spell a lot where he wouldn't have been able to otherwise.
Finds another Transgress the Mind, so he can take that Chandra. He knows it's there.
He might even take the Ulamog, though, or like wait a few turns, because he knows that, you know, if Ling's tapping out this turn for Chandra, then he's just going to get him with the gate.
Well, here comes Chandra. Just a single blue to cast to the negate. Oh, is he going to anticipate first?
Oh, of course, you have to.
Finds himself
A Westvale Abbey.
a Westvale Abbey, yep. And then, of course, I just drew the negate off the anticipate.
Yeah. And now Shaheen's going to get to loot thanks to Baral, Chief of Compliance here.
And goes a card deeper. Wow, making Baral look great.
Yeah, I mean, Baral's allowed him double
2
spell.
mana, and he gets to anticipate, negate, and loot a card. There's Transgress the Mind. The only card it's going to be able to take is the Ulamog, leaving Harness Lightning and Censor in hand for Ling. There's Westvale Abbey. And she's just going to pull from pull from Tomorrow right here. So he gets to go 4 cards deep.
Yep.
Thanks to the cost reduction. Still has to discard a card, discards an island.
It looks like he found a pair of Torrential Gearhulks.
Wow.
And from here, it's going to be pretty hard to lose. Unless, of course, Ling's top of his library is especially kind this turn.
So Ling is going to cycle.
I mean, this is his window right here.
There's Rogue Refiner. Now, is this game very different if Harness Lightning takes out the Baral turns and turns ago?
That's a good point. I think that Baral has definitely done a lot of good work here. I mean, it's definitely produced in between 4 and 5 mana as far in the game.
So Shaheen doing what a blue-black control deck just wants to do, just hitting its land drop, sitting back on instants and flash creatures. In comes Rogue Refiner. Shaheen is going to cast his Torrential Gearhulk.
Yeah, and let's see what... imagine he's just going to flash back the Hieroglyphic Illumination here.
Draw 2 cards. And now Ling has got a target that he wants to use that Harness Lightning on, and he takes down the Torrential Gearhulk, but, you know, at a pretty great cost to his energy stores.
Yeah, now he's down to 4 energy here.
But right back up with Glimmer of Genius.
And remember, this is all during Ling's attack step, so Shaheen is going to get to untap his lands. And the thing, however, is that Shaheen wants his lands to be untapped on Ling's turn.
Shaheen still had drawing 2 cards on the stack.
Yeah.
Very kind of Ling to point that out to him. Oh boy, look at this. Another pull from tomorrow in hand for Shaheen.
Yeah, capable of casting that for 7? Ugh. That's not remotely fair.
Ling, it looks like he's drawn another Ulamog, but
yeah, I mean, he's getting the
many
point now
turns
where
away from that.
Shaheen needs to get a better clock on Ling, though, if he doesn't want that to become relevant later on in the game.
All right, in comes Rogue Refiner. Try again this time. It's just going to get Grasp in Darkness. And here comes Tireless Tracker. He has a land drop, gets a clue. 7 mana for Ling.
Inching ever closer to that magic number of 10. He
Pops the clue immediately. And here is Torrential Gearhulk. Grasp takes down the Tireless Tracker. Ling is sitting on a Dispel, but wasn't really willing to pick that fight.
Yeah, already had gotten the clue. Wants to be able to use his Dispel to protect the
Can
big
he
card.
find and protect an Aetherworks Marvel to get back into this game?
I mean, he's already used 2 of them, I believe.
Wow. And he's just getting buried in card advantage by Shaheen, who gets him to counter a Hieroglyphic Illumination and then gets to resolve Pull from Tomorrow for 5 cards.
I mean, he already had a card in hand, too, so this is basically a brand new grip. He's just discarding an extra land, and it looks like he has, you know, multiple copies of Negate in his hand.
Ling is down to 9. In comes the Gearhulk. What's the play for Shaheen? Liliana, the Last Hope. Mills 2, and he's just going to get a Torrential Gearhulk back with Liliana.
I like it.
Things are looking super grim here for Ling. And that is the game. Shaheen shows him a handful of blue cards.
Yeah.
Shaheen Soorani going back to his roots, blue-black control, and he is 6-1 after 7 rounds here at Grand Prix Montreal. We got a little bit more magic to show you this round. And we'll get to it right after this.